Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're going to be investigating the latest threat to, a potential threat, I should say, to the United States that is in the tropics in the Atlantic right now, and that is Invest 95L. But before I get into it, be sure to, as always, like and subscribe, as it does help out the channel a lot. And we're just going to get right into it here. Starting with the National Hurricane Center map, and by the way, yeah, this is the remnants of Franklin all the way up here. Could move southeast and reform into something. That should be interesting to see how that plays out. Had a lot of storms, dying and then reforming. It's happened a lot this season. But yeah, it's several hundred miles north of the Azores, and it's forecast to move southeastward towards the warmer waters, and it could potentially something for Europe there. So that's going to be interesting. And of course, we got Gert. Nothing interesting really happened with that. I mean, it dissipated earlier this morning. And it's just going to honestly get absorbed at this point. And we have Katia here that's just moving, kind of rotating. It'll eventually move off to the south. And then we have this, which has a 100% chance now to form in the next 7 days and 90% chance to form in the next 2 days. This is Invest 95L. All right, and we also have a wave that'll emerge off of Africa within the next few days. But getting to 95L here, satellite imagery indicates that an area of low pressure has formed from the tropical waves centered about 700 miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. This low-level circulation has become better defined since yesterday, and of course, there's been a lot of increasing organization in the shower and thunderstorm activity. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for further development, and this system is expected to become a depression or a storm in the next day or two, and then there could be additional strengthening going from there. It is moving pretty fast. I'd say 15 to 20 miles an hour is pretty fast, a little bit faster than average, right? And this will continue again, west-northwest path. And just judging by this path right here, I mean, this is the kind of track that usually does impact the United States. Whenever you got a storm going near the Caribbean islands like this, usually if it's like up here and it starts, it's typically going to bend out this way. But this one, remember, in terms of, how far south it is, it's at about 11 degrees north in terms of the latitude right now. So it's pretty far south. So it's going to really have to make some northerly turns if it's going to still go out to sea. But expect some impacts potentially for, at least for right now, the Puerto Rico and Lesser Antilles, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, the rest of the Caribbean, and the United States. That is still to be determined. But we're going to take a look at all the factors and all the models to see what could happen here. So maximum winds 30 knots, so almost 35-mile-an-hour winds. That's almost like a depression. So we could even see something, honestly, by tomorrow morning. I wouldn't even be surprised, right? Especially because at nighttime, you got that colder air that usually settles in aloft, and then the warm, moist air from the thunderstorms can really get them going, and the storm could strengthen at night, among other factors that we'll also discuss. Central pressure right now is 1,010 millibars, which is pretty normal for a storm of this magnitude. Taking a look at the satellite imagery here, you can see a lot of thunderstorm activity. You can kind of see it, a little rotating center, kind of like in here. Not too impressive. Again, it's only an invest, so this is, again, typical. Don't be like, oh, this thing's nothing. I mean, it surely is right now, but it could definitely form into something over the next couple of days. Right? Visible satellite, let's take a look at that. Right, and you can kind of see that center kind of, you can see it's like a rotating, just like a shift in the rotation there. You can see of those cloud tops. So that's something we're going to be watching. And you can again see those thunderstorms really bubbling up. And the going from white to gray, that's because of the time of day changing. It's not because the storm is weakening. I just want to point it out there. You can still see the storms kind of like bubble up on the satellite, right? You can see it happening around here and here as well. Right? So this thing is definitely getting stronger. Right? And we're going to be taking a look at some other factors as to why that is. First, let's take a look at where the low is right now. About 33 degrees west and about 11 degrees north in terms of the latitude and longitude coordinates. All right, so again, 10 degrees north is considered pretty far south. So the fact that it's at 11 kind of says, this is still pretty far south. We look at the model track guidance. The models actually are in pretty good agreement. They actually take it, that's going to have it moving more northwesterly and maybe missing Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, which of course is preferable. Right? Now, a lot of models actually do agree on that right now, but still, you have to understand that this, there could be a delay. It all depends on the steering mechanisms in the upper levels. How long does it take? What's the Bermuda High situation looking like? How long does it take to make that turn? All it's going to determine what happens here. If you take a look here at the GEFS model tracks, I mean, one thing is pretty much guaranteed, it seems like, and you'll see this in the intensity forecast. This thing is going to get strong, at least a Cat 3, and I'm being generous here. All right, you can see all these dark red and purple areas, right? The pressure getting below 970, 960, 950 even. A lot of magentas indicating maybe pressure as low as 940 millibars. But there are a lot of models that, even though there are a good amount that take it north of the black line, which is the mean, the average, a lot do take it south as well. All right, so I would say on the GEFS model tracks, after about 72 hours, the accuracy, goes down significantly, right? And the amount of agreement as well. Because this could be, at the very least, if this were to play out like this black line right here, that goes something like this, I mean, at the very least, the East Coast will get a lot of wave action. Right? But something could come of this. All right, if we look at the GEPS model tracks, which not many are out right now, and the ones that are out are only 0C, which was earlier this morning, but you can still see kind of taking that west-northwesterly path, maybe potentially steering towards the United States. So everyone's got to be on a high alert for this one. And again, as I said, look at these intensity forecasts. Pretty much all the models take this like a Cat 4. Almost all of them, like 99%, take it to a Cat 3 at least. So yeah, and some even have it getting to a Cat 5 status. So the rapid strengthening is going to continue, right, over the next few days or so. If we look at the sea surface temperatures right now, you can see about 85 degrees from where the storm center is, all right, which is located like right here. But as it continues to move to the west-northwest and northwest, you can see water stay about the same, maybe go up to about 86. Right, so only the sea surface temperatures they'll get a little bit warmer as the storm makes its way off to the west. If we look at the upper level winds right now, so this is the surface that I'm showing you here. You can see the surface winds. There's that low pressure right there. If we go to the upper levels, you can kind of see there's a very little bit of shear, right? The storm's not perfectly stacked yet. And you can see that might continue over the next day or so, but the shear is not very strong. You don't see like these kind of like strong winds really going across the center yet. That's obviously a good sign that it could continue to strengthen, right? Some conducive conditions for development. If we look at the tropical intensity index, right, you can see again pretty much a sea of red here. I mean, east of the Caribbean, meaning again highly favorable development area. Really, nothing's stopping this right now. If we look at the relative vorticity signature, not perfectly circular, which is what you want to see, but like this storm right here, frankly even looks kind of circular and round. Right, you don't really see that here. It's kind of more of a stretched out area, but that will continue to eventually galvanize into a little circle as we head over the next few days, and of course that could signal potential strengthening with the system. Again, still looking pretty, somewhat aggressive, especially when you compare it to these other storms that are out there right now. If we look at the dry air signature, the Saharan air layer could be a problem down the road. This could actually dissipate over time, but right now, I mean, if it continues on this west-northwest path, it'll avoid most of that dry air again because it's so far south, right? But it's around 10 degrees north latitude. And one of the things I always like to say is when storms typically form around here, they can typically avoid that dry air that comes that's at about 20 degrees north of latitude. If we take a look at the tropical cyclone heat potential, right? Because we talked about sea surface temperatures, now we need to talk about how warm are the waters deep down, because that's what really gets a storm, really gets it going there. If we take a look, this is about where the storm is right now. I'll put a little low pressure there. As it makes its way again west northwest, you will see once it gets to this area, it will start strengthening even further, because not only do the sea surface temperatures get a little bit warmer, but so will the waters deep below the ocean surface, which really can tap into that energy. We saw the same thing with the Dahlia when it was sitting in this warm bubble of ocean water in the Caribbean and in the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so something to certainly look out for in that regard over the next few days as well. How about current wind steering? All right, so this can, we can kind of use this to show where the storm could potentially go. If we look at where it is right now on this map, again, it's at about right around here. All right, and current wind steering, we have upper level high pressure located right here, and we have upper level high pressure, a little bit of a weaker one, but located here. So that's going to push this low pretty much due west. Now, that's why it is a little confusing to see some of these models saying like, oh, this is going to like turn. While it could do that, I do think that upper level high pressure that we do see, of course, if this upper level high over here was a little bit stronger, I think that would keep it further south. But maybe if this second one here weak, and then that might, I'll open the door for a more northerly track from this. But again, time is the only thing that will tell here. But do keep note that this current high pressure in the upper levels, it's keeping shear down a little bit for it, but it's also steering it in that more westerly direction as opposed to northwest. How about wind shear? Again, just as we were talking about, again, you can see in this area very low. I mean, this shaded black area is pretty much where the storm will be, or I should probably tilt it like this. So this black area probably where the storm will be over the next few days, and you can see very low wind shear, below 20 knots in pretty much everywhere. So on the wind shear front, which is typically what El Niños suppress, because the wind shear increases suppressing the storm's activity. We really don't have a problem with that, at least in this part of the Atlantic Basin right now. Let's take a look at some modeling as we head towards the tail end of this video here. You can take a look at the HWRF, which is a pretty good intensity model. You can see kind of the storm goes, it moves west, then it will eventually turn a little bit more west-northwesterly. Again, a lot of models bring it just to the north of those islands, right? Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, and of course it stops at about here. But if we take a look at the intensity of it, yeah, like this is like a Cat 3, borderline Cat 4 at this point. So that's something that we're going to need to watch pretty closely. Of course, this track will, of course, be fine-tuned in the coming days. We look at the GFS model. You can see it does go north of the islands, but then it kind of just gets very close. Like it almost looks like it's about to go out to sea, right? Like you can see Bermuda's right here. Once a storm gets around Bermuda, typically it's assumed, oh, it's just going to go out to sea. And yeah, but then it just keeps going towards the East Coast, and then at the last second turns and just smacks into Halifax. And one thing to note with the GFS here, if we go back to their model runs from this morning, like this one shows like a direct East Coast impact. And the 6Z from this morning all the way, I think, back to 12Z from yesterday, yeah, we're all showing getting it very close, if not striking the East Coast. Now, I do understand that's just a GFS, but the Euro has been showing some signs of that as well. So, and it was like for 5 model runs in a row. Now, of course, that could change and go back, or it could change and not go back. But that's why this storm is something to watch. And also because of how far south it is, typically if a wave emerges, up here off Africa, like I said, it starts more northerly, it'll end more northerly typically and go out to sea. Of course, again, depending on what the steering is looking like in the upper levels in terms of the Bermuda High. But if we look at the European model, again, now their most recent 0Z model run, I would play 60, but it only goes out like a few days, and we want it to go out for 10, so I have the 0Z selected, but you can see it kind of goes up and then just makes a pivot out to sea. Again, due to steering that's happening across the United States, frontal system, or the jet stream pushes it out, and of course because of that weakening Bermuda High. But other model runs have shown different things, like the 12Z model run, right? After it goes north of the Caribbean, right, it just kind of just sits there. So again, only time will tell with this. And if we look finally at the Canadian model, you can see the system behind it starting off a lot farther to north, and you can see, just like I said, it will probably go north and out to sea. But 95L, which is right here, right, continues to just book to the west, and then it does make a turn to the north, right? But maybe what happens with this low pressure over land doesn't maybe pull it up into New England. Again, only time will tell with this system. So because of that uncertainty, although models do seem to be in agreement, there's a ton of uncertainty because if this were to strike the East Coast, this is like 2 weeks away. So still, and probably a week away from the Caribbean. So keep it here for updates. We'll definitely have to watch this system very closely. Thank you for watching. I am The Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.